Should I mute myself? Hi, Vicky Kelty here with today's live. I'm back. I took a break and had a little difficulty remembering how does one start a live because I haven't done them in forever. And I figured it out. So here I am. Today I'm going to do things a little bit differently just to try new, and I'll do some this way, I'll do some the old way I was doing them, and other mixes in between. But today I wanted to basically walk you through a lesson that I have done with my students. And so we're going to use that. You can accompany me on this lesson and just do it along with me as I walk you through it. And I'm also going to do it along with me. That sounded weird, but that's what I'm going to do. So everybody gets to do it at the same time. Are you ready? On your marks, get set. Go, should we say? All right. So first, what we're focusing on today is we're basically just going to make sure that our base that we're building in English is nice and strong. Ooh, oof, yeah. And one of the ways to do that is not with hand weights or anything of that nature, but we have a little exercise to just practice the information that we want to use to keep this information strong, which is the different verbs and constructing sentences. So, how we're going to do that is literally by practicing it. It's so simple that it is something that sometimes we get caught in reviewing the grammar and we don't just practice it. But I don't mean practicing it with like fill in the blank exercises. I mean practicing it with information that connects to us that we care about. So, um, start off with choosing some common verbs. So, I'm gonna put in the chat, if that is possible for me. Here is a link to a blog post that I have written so that you can just follow along with the process and also have all the things so you don't have to look them up. I also looked my stuff up beforehand so that I wouldn't have to take the time to look them up. So if you're thinking, well, I don't know what common verbs are in English that I'll need to use, don't worry. I have given you the link that has a list of some common verbs for you. Um, it's 20, a list of 20 common verbs. You may or may not use all of them today. We'll see. But that's step one. You want to have verbs so that you can work with them. And that's really going to help with your base because imagine that you know these 20 verbs and you can use them and manipulate them in different ways to use them in the present, in the past, maybe some irregular verbs. Not maybe, there are a number of irregular verbs on the list. And that was not by accident that I chose this specific list. Because this is a list from Babbel, by the way. It is not a list of verbs that I came up with, but I searched through some different lists, and this was one that I said, I like it. I like this list, so we're going to use it. And that's the first step. So simple. Next, I want you to think of 10 different things that you can talk about. These are going to be the subjects of all of your sentences. So I would write about things like my cats obviously, because I talk about him all the time. My husband, because I talk about him a lot too. My family and languages. That's what I'm talking about right now. And Friends, the TV show. So I'm going to write down those different things that I just said. And I want you to take a moment. I have my pen at the ready. I have my paper at the ready as well. Um, okay. So I said my cats, my husband, my fam, languages. What else did I say? Remind me. Mm, oh yeah, Friends TV show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I need 5 more. My friends, like my actual friends, not the TV show this time. And um, Stephen King books, because I have a lot of those that I've read. So that could be a really great topic for me. 3 more. Mm, maybe something about chocolate. Here's a really random one. So I've gone rogue. Uh, Dinosaurs. I It's not that I can't think of any, it's that I'm on the spot. So maybe you're feeling this too. So if you can only think of 5 being on the spot, then just go with 5. But I want I want to come up with 10. Oh, games. I really like talking about games. Duh, Vicky. Okay. So you have your 10 subjects. I have mine. And although you might be thinking, oh, this is so easy for you, Vicky, because you already know English. You got your Nebraska knowledge running through your veins. That is true. But I'm not actually going to be doing this in English. I'm going to be doing it in French. Hey. And something that I didn't mention that I will go ahead and mention now is that although I'm doing this in French because I'm focusing on building my French base, getting a nice strong base, I could easily do this in Spanish as well. And what I would focus on with Spanish, where I'm more advanced in that language, is I would be focusing on strengthening that base through reviewing this information. So both of them are strengthening it, but we're strengthening it in different ways. One is building it so that it's starting off strong and then continuing to keep it strong. And the other one is, in theory, we already have that base. I like to use this as my base. We already have that base. And so then we just want to make sure that it's still as strong as it was when we built it originally. Okay. Right. Now we continue on with 10 adjectives, because when we talk about things, why not put a little sprinkling of a little glitter to our subjects by giving some adjectives. So I'm using my little cheat sheet here with my own blog post, which honestly is what I would do in class because I would have my lesson ready. So I would also feel free to use my notes to explain that to the student because I'm not expected to remember everything and my little brain here. So what would be 10 adjectives? I also included a list for you because today's blog post is brought to you by Babbel. I figured they had some common adjectives. Let's see if they have some common verbs. So let's see if they have some common adjectives. And they did. So I just went with their adjectives. But it doesn't, like, you get to make this personal to you. So if you have some specific adjectives that you are really excited to practice and to use, then definitely put those in. I'm going to use some from the Babbel French list because I also looked up their French. And they have, I think, actually, there are just 12. So maybe I'll just focus on the 12 that they have. But when I say adjectives, nice, easy, funny, boring, beautiful, handsome, tall, short, just to throw some out at you. All right. So I'm going to use the adjectives from the blog post slash Babel article, and you can use what you choose to use. And then our next step is we get to work. We're going to make our sentences. I will share a sentence that I already wrote, which is adorable, and that's why I want us to share it, is my cat is funny. She likes to play in small boxes. I was going to change it so to have you guess which cat I was talking about, but actually I could easily say my cat is funny. He likes to play in small boxes because both of the cats love playing in boxes. I am not going to lie. If you have a cat, you probably have a similar situation because cats in boxes are all the rage. They're very into that sort of thing. So what I want to show you with the sentence is that I used the verb to be, and then I also used the verb like, and I did also use the verb play. Likes to play. But the topic for that one, the thing I was talking about was my cats, because I referenced both of them. And then some adjectives that I threw in was mentioning that my cat's funny. And I was going to put silly, but I went with funny. And not that silly wouldn't be true. It would also be true. And I put small. So the size of the box, because I could have said big boxes. Either one. They love all sizes of boxes. They are not picky. But it's adorable when they're trying to get into this little small box and you're like, you're not going to fit. And then they do. Magic. So what I want you to see is that you don't need to just write singular sentences. See if you can add on to the information and just sort of be using that first sentence as your starting off point and see where it goes from there. Maybe the other topics that you chose, the other subjects, can link to it and you can continue, because I could easily say something about my family or my husband in connection to the cats or languages. Like all of those topics relate to the cats, or Friends, the TV show, or Friends, my friends. Like they're so simple to connect all of these things. And the reason I say that is because by adding on to it, then you're making the activity more complex. And so then you can get more out of it. And that's great for the advanced part of you. And that's also great for my building up my French, because I'm expanding on my basic knowledge, right? So in both ways, you can get a lot out of it. Shall we take a moment and write our sentences? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna say okay a bunch of times while I think of how to say this in French. Okay, my cat's funny. I put very funny. And I don't know with French if I think they do. Like I say, so you might have learned that you say it for animals, but I use she or he for my cats because I've given my cats names, and one is Gunther, and he's a male cat, and the other is Janice, and she's a female cat. So I reference them as he and she. You can do what you want if you prefer to say it. But so I'm going to just use she in French too. And somebody can correct me if that is not right. But for the moment, that's what I will say. Oh my gosh, my pen's running out of ink. Mhm. So I'm going to say instead of boxes, I can't think of the word right now. Oh, I think I just remembered it. I changed it to toys. Okay. I have a couple of sentences written. I hope you have a couple of sentences. And so the idea is you would continue on like this, writing more sentences. And then the last challenge that I would just leave you with is if you have a sentence that comes to your mind, like right now, I had boxes that was the original thing that I wanted to write, but I couldn't think how to say boxes in French. So I went with toys, which isn't literally the same thing, but their box is a toy because it's something they play with. So I'm still getting across the message that somebody could picture them playing with a toy, and maybe they won't see in their mind a box, but they will see the idea of what I'm trying to share with them. So that would be the last thing that I would challenge you to do is to take anything that feels maybe complex to say or that you feel like you don't have the exact words for and see if you can use the vocabulary from the list, the verbs from the list, and or the adjectives to help you express what it is that you are trying to say rather than having to find a direct translation for it. This is a really, 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 really cool ability to have. So the more you practice it and the more you're able to do that just on the spot in the moment, the easier that conversations will be for you. Because imagine that moment when I was writing my sentence that I was, if I sat there and I was like, oh, how do you say box? 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 Instead of just allowing myself to, okay, I know a different word. I'm going to go ahead and go down this road and use that other word and let the conversation continue to flow. So that is what I will leave you with. And of course, you can totally do this with the past tense because, as I mentioned, these verbs are the majority of them are irregular verbs. So they're really, really good practice for you with either reviewing what you haven't reviewed in a while for your base to make sure you have those conjugations of those little pesky irregular verbs in the past. You have those memorized. And instead of just sitting and memorizing them, you're getting to create these little stories about yourself. And what's better than having something like ourselves to talk about? Nothing, because if we sit and use the exercises from a book, which are great, they aren't always personalized. And so some of that information we won't be able to use again. And in this way, you can use that information again. So, yeah, I would love to hear what sentence or sentences you came up with in your practice today. And I am going to continue making some more sentences in French, see if I can come up with some that continue on from my cats playing with their toys and lead into the other topics of my husband and my family, and Stephen King books and chocolate and all of those things. That is all from me today. I hope that you have enjoyed this little lesson, I guess, and we'll see you in the next live. Toodaloo.